All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, with the NFL draft a little bit less than 3 months away, we all know that the Las Vegas Raiders are basically officially on the clock. And as bad as the Raiders have been now for more than 2 decades, they do have an opportunity this offseason to take some much needed strides forward. But the big question is going to be whether or not that we could trust Raiders management to make the right decisions. So, with the first choice of the draft, all signs point to Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza preparing to don the silver and black for the Raiders. Now, is Mendoza the next John Elway in the NFL? We don't know, but he could be another piece to the puzzle that the Raiders so desperately need to solve. You look at it, it's been such a struggle in recent years for the Raiders at the most important position on the football field, which is quarterback, as well as their first round selections. It's been a train wreck, okay? And you look at this opportunity if you're the Raiders, you cannot afford to mess this up. You look at things. Let's say the Raiders do select Mendoza, as most of us suspect them to do. You would then pair him with running back Ashton Genty, last year's first round choice, and then of course tight end Brock Bowers, their first round choice from a couple of years ago. And the thing for me is this: you look at the season that we just saw Mendoza have collegiately at Indiana as he led them to an undefeated record. We saw the Hoosiers go 16 and 0. They won the national championship for the first time in program history. And of course, Mendoza was flawless, but it was all about the team that was around him. Not taking anything away from what we saw Fernando Mendoza do. Solid running game, solid receivers, great coaching, solid offensive line. With that said, I think it's the need for the Raiders to get the right head coach quarterback combo, and they appear to be off to the right foot because all signs point to them taking Klint Kubiak, who is currently the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator, to be their next head coach. And of course, the Raiders, they can't officially announce it yet because Kubiak is in the process of getting prepped for Super Bowl number 60 next Sunday. But of course, at this point, it looks like the I's just needed to be dotted and the T's just need to be crossed. And Klint Kubiak is going to be your next head coach of the Vegas Raiders. He's been a hot coaching candidate during this coaching cycle. Usually, you expect the assistant coaches from the teams that are participating in the Super Bowl to get some looks. And like I said before, Kubiak was a hot candidate. There was rumors about possibly the Arizona Cardinals being interested in him as well, but it looks like he is going to be the next head coach, like I said, of the Raiders. So I keep saying this, and I said this after the season was over for the Raiders, and I will reiterate it right now. The importance for the Raiders to get this right, as for first and foremost with their head coach, because you got to go back to John Gruden as their last head coach, and this was during his first run with the franchise. Okay, when they were still in Oakland, to find the last head coach that completed 4 years with the Raiders, and then you've got to go back to Art Shell's original run with the Raiders when they were still in Los Angeles to find the last time that a Raiders head coach got through 5 years with the club. It has been a revolving door, and like I keep saying, quarterback, GM, and head coach, you can't consistently mess those positions up if you want to succeed in the NFL. Fernando Mendoza has potential. Make no mistake about it. But like I always say, that potential will not amount to a hill of beans unless the Raiders can put the right people around him. So if I am the Raiders and I take Mendoza first overall, I'm making sure that I bring in a quarterback, a veteran quarterback, to mentor him along. That's first things first. Mr. High Hopes, what's going on, my man? Happy Sunday to you. You're saying, look at my Seahawks go, man. I bet he could turn things around in Vegas. First things first. Klint Kubiak has come, he's paid his dues. And, he's a part of that Sean McVay coaching tree, I do believe. The son of Gary Kubiak, of course, a former NFL quarterback, of course, Super Bowl winning head coach himself. And again, you look at what the Seahawks offense looked like this season. I mean, and still looks like, okay, because they got one more game to go. I think Klint Kubiak is going to do some good things with the Raiders organization, in my opinion. Clearly, he has not been a head coach before. We know that. But nonetheless, I think if you're the Raiders, you went to Seattle last year, per se, to get your head coach and Pete Carroll. They got themselves a mulligan, and to the Raiders' credit, they got off of Pete after 1 year. They clearly felt, you know what, maybe the game has passed them by. We don't know, but nonetheless, they went back to Seattle to try again with their head coach, and I think this time around they are going to get it. You take Mendoza, in my opinion, if you're the Raiders, but like I said, you get a veteran quarterback in that room because too often I feel like some of these teams, they try to rush the youngsters out there at quarterback. Everybody's not ready to play week number one. Okay, I'm not saying you got to sit up there and put the kid gloves on Mendoza, but nonetheless, even if it's like 5 or 6 games, you got to get somebody out there to maybe keep that seat warm, let him evaluate things, and then you throw him into the fire. At some point, you're going to have to see what you have at quarterback. But like I said, you really don't want to go out there and ruin this kid. It's not just going to be about the head coach. I think Kubiak is a big step in the right direction right there, but also get yourself a quality offensive coordinator, get yourself a quality offensive coach. My philosophy is this: it takes a village to raise a quarterback in the National Football League. Also, doesn't hurt that you have arguably the greatest quarterback in NFL history as a minority owner for the Raiders and Tom Brady. And again, like we saw Tom Brady at the national championship game a couple of weeks ago, scouting Fernando Mendoza. And it's one of those, like I said, you need to put as many people around him to help him get ready for life in the NFL. It's one of those for me. The Raiders heading into this offseason, they're littered with cap space and they're littered with draft picks. I think the Raiders are projected to have nearly $90 million in cap space. I will always say this about cap space. I will always say this about draft picks. It's only good if you know what you're doing with it. So if you're the Raiders and you're going to go out there and spend some of that money, you've got to spend it on the right people. I will say this: if you're the Raiders, and this is a situation that Klint Kubiak is going into, there's only one way to go, and that's up. The Raiders have only won 7 games over the last 2 seasons. We're talking about a team that had the worst offense in the NFL this past season. The Raiders didn't even average 250 yards per game. They were held to 10 points or less 7 times, shut out twice. Their quarterbacks threw 19 interceptions. Most of those came from Geno Smith. They only threw 20 touchdowns. So you look at that right now. You know you need a quarterback. You know you need help at wide receiver. You know you need help on the offensive line. You know you need help defensively at all positions. So with the exception of defensive end, you have Max Crosby. But, Max Crosby, as good as he is, he can't do it by himself. So if you are the Raiders, you have to go out there and be able to field yourself a team this off season. So definitely, if you're Klint Kubiak, you're definitely looking for a challenge, and you're also looking for the fact that you're going to have the opportunity to build this team from the ground up. And on top of that, it's a culture change because you look at the teams that Klint Kubiak has worked with. He's working with Seattle right now, Mike Macdonald, and kudos to Mike Macdonald for the job that he is doing there. You think about Kubiak's time with the San Francisco 49ers under head coach Kyle Shanahan, another organization that is consistently in the mix to win a Super Bowl. It's all about changing the culture for the Raiders. This is an organization. They have only had one winning season since they moved to Las Vegas, one winning season since 2017, 2 playoff appearances since they last appeared in the Super Bowl at the end of the 2002 season, and the AFC Championship game that year against the Tennessee Titans. We're talking about the last time that the Raiders won a playoff game. So definitely, you've got to come in there and change the culture. But it is doable. Just look at the New England Patriots. They were 4-13 last year. They're 14-3 this year, and they're 60 minutes away from winning the Super Bowl championship. So again, you've got to get the right people in your organization to go out there and change the culture and set that tone. And it's super important for the Raiders. You look at that division, you've got to deal with the Denver Broncos, you've got to deal with the Chargers. We know that the Kansas City Chiefs should rebound, okay, after having a losing season, after missing the playoffs, and of course, Patrick Mahomes recovering from that ACL injury. So, the importance of the Raiders to start planting the seeds in order to get things turned around. Klint Kubiak will have something to work with because I look at Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is he's already one of the better tight ends in the National Football League, in my opinion. Uh, Ashton Genty, okay, showed that he has potential. Just missed getting 1,000 yards. That's going to change next year. We've seen the run game with Seattle for Klint Kubiak. Of course, this year the bulk of it was Zach Charbonnet and of course Kenneth Walker. The Raiders definitely have to address that O line. If you're going to go out there and take Mendoza, at some point you want to address the left tackle position, of course, to protect the quarterback's blind side. But you got to protect that, address that offensive line, excuse me, up and down. You've got to find guys who defensively who are going to be able to get to the quarterback because again, you got Bo Nix in Denver. We've got Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, and of course, you got Justin Herbert with the Chargers. These are the three quarterbacks that you need to get by in order to find a way to compete in that AFC West. So again, the Raiders are littered with cap space. They're littered with picks this offseason, but you've got to go out there and make it happen. And again, all signs point to the Raiders selecting Mendoza. They've got to do right by him because, again, too often, and I talked about this the other night with Sam Darnold, too often we see bad teams throw good college players into bad situations and expect them to be miracle workers. And again, going back to Sam Darnold, didn't work out for him with the Jets. The Jets are a bad organization. Little by little, stop by stop, he got better and better. And then, of course, we saw him break through last year with Minnesota, and then, of course, look at this year. What a turnaround it's been for Sam Darnold. So, but again, another prime example. You've got to put your people in the right situation to succeed. So they need to do right by Fernando Mendoza. They also need to do something about their beleaguered fan base because the fans that the Raiders have in Vegas, I mean, you haven't given them anything to cheer about, first and foremost. And I keep talking about this. The Raiders really do not have themselves a home field advantage at Allegiant Stadium. Why? Because, again, going to Vegas for a weekend, if you're a Chiefs fan, if you're a Broncos fan, Bears, Packers, whoever, it's one of those, you come out for the weekend, you ball out, have fun at the casino, see a couple of shows, and then you go watch the game. The Raiders have not given their local fans anything there to quote unquote get behind. So I think it's going to be important for them not only to get it right with Fernando Mendoza, but get it right this offseason. Bringing in Klint Kubiak definitely, I feel, is a step in the right direction. If we've seen so far some of these guys off of the Sean McVay coaching tree, and of course, it goes a little bit further with Kyle Shanahan. Usually, when they come in, they change things around. And if you're the Raiders, uh, and you're Klint Kubiak, it's a situation where you know what you're going to have an opportunity to build this squad from the ground up. So, like I said, they can't officially announce Kubiak as their next head coach, but like I said, nonetheless, definitely a step in the right direction. So clearly, at this point, if you're the Raiders, regardless of what happens with the Super Bowl, the outcome of the Super Bowl next Sunday night, I don't know if Clint Kubiak would fly back to Seattle with the Seahawks, or he would just catch a flight from San Francisco out to Vegas, be formally introduced by the Raiders, and I'm sure that he's ready to hit the ground running. But like I said, you've got an opportunity to build up. Fernando Mendoza would definitely be another piece. What are they going to do with that cap space? They've got to go out there and I think just continue or start rather to build this team. But nonetheless, bringing in Klint Kubiak, I feel personally is probably the second best higher so far during this coaching cycle behind John Harbaugh going to the Giants. Just my two thoughts right there. But nonetheless, I think Klint Kubiak is going to have success with the Raiders. And as bad as the Raiders have been for far too long, because again, I'm one of those folks, regardless of what city that the Raiders play in, when they're good, I think it's better for the NFL. But nonetheless, as bad as the Raiders have been, they finally have an opportunity to turn it around, folks. Will the Raiders make the most of their opportunity? They've already got what I feel is a quality head coach, and Kubiak. Let's see if they can go out there and get their QB and Fernando Mendoza and continue to build. But nonetheless, I think they have an opportunity to do something big. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, definitely be sure to continue to check out this channel throughout the week. Got a lot of NFL stuff to talk about heading up to Super Bowl 60 next Sunday. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. And also, if you're on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.